everyone, it's Mari here from Clarke Creations. I've got a scrapbooking layout for you today. I'm starting off by creating some of my own embellishments for my project today. I am going to create some embellishments that are going to match really well with the Tranquility collection from 49 and Market. This is some Vicky Bouton Foundations paper, and I'm working with some Paper Artsy fresco paints. I'm using Rose, Persimmon, and Snowflake. I've mixed them together so that they match up with that pink in the Tranquility collection. And I've brayered that onto the paper. And now I've watered the paint down and I'm just splattering it with just with a small paintbrush here and just getting some really nice splatter onto this paper. And just having fun creating a piece that's going to match up really well with the collection so that I can then go ahead and die cut out some pieces that I'm going to use here for ephemera. I'm going to be using some Seth Apter Paper Artsy stamps here and a stencil from Dilusions. The Dilution stencil is called Large Boulders, and it's just got these circular shapes, and the stencil is going to kind of act as a mask. So what I'm going to do is ink up these different stamps with my Morning Mist VersaFine Clair ink, which is just a really nice soft gray. And I'm going to stamp over those circle openings there with a stamp that's kind of just a little bit bigger than the circle, or just fits right into the circle in the case of this stamp, which is actually a circle shape. And what I'm just going for here is I want to create just a variety of marks and color and eventually some texture onto this paper. And then I'll die cut this out with a die and create just something really fun that I can use. I'm not going to use all of these different pieces on my project today. I will save the extras for future projects, but I just had so much fun with this process. It's just a really great way to use the tools that you have in your space as much as you possibly can. And so I'm going to use stamps, I'm going to use a stencil, I'm going to use a die, and I'm going to create some of my own embellishments with those different tools. So I love how this looks. I think it's really fun, and I also wanted to add some texture. So I'm going to use some Cosmic Shimmer texture paste in Gold Pearl. This is a beautiful product. I don't have anything else like this in my stash. It's just the most lovely pearlized gold color. And I'm going to use this Crafters Workshop Script Dots 12 by 12 stencil. And this is a really fun stencil too. I'm not going to use the texture paste through every one of the different areas on this stencil, but just kind of like every here and there. And I'm going to use my palette knife to just take the product through the stencil. It's going to leave this really fun texture on that stamped and painted paper. So I'm really going to love how this looks when I peel this off. I think it's gorgeous. And I will let this dry, but I will say that this texture paste dried super, super fast. I took the stencil and washed it right away and got those things cleaned up. And now I'm going to be using this Sizzix Leaf Fragments die from Tim Holtz. I love this so much. And look how fun that is when that is die cut from this paper. Now, I couldn't resist. I didn't want to throw any of the extra pieces out without using a circle punch to cut out a few extra little embellishments that I can use on another project. And I go through all of the different little paper scraps after die cutting out those leaves and just make sure that I'm using up as much of that as I can. And I still have about half the paper left, and I'm going to put that in with the Tranquility collection as well for future projects. Now, this is an Elizabeth Crafts design stencil. I can't remember which stencil this is exactly, but I'll try to find it and link it up in the description box. I'm using some white texture paste here. I'm just running that over the stencil with my palette knife. And the paper that I'm using here is one of the coordinating papers with Tranquility. I can't remember if they're called solids or what this paper pack was called, but it is part of the Tranquility collection. And I love it for a background because it's just really nice and subtle. And I often find that I have more success using a paper like this as my background. Not to say that I wouldn't use the gorgeous pattern papers from this collection as a background. I definitely would, and I have here on YouTube. But I wanted to show you how you can use the busier pattern papers in a different way. So now that that texture paste is all dry and I just let that dry on its own, I'm going to take this paper, which is stunning on its own, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to cut two strips that are about the same width, one vertically and one horizontally, and I'm going to use these in an L shape on my layout here to create an L-shaped design. So I've got the first paper cut here, and I'm just kind of measuring how I want to shorten that. I'm just going to shorten it a little bit at the top and bottom. And because I don't want this paper to go right to the edges of my layout, I'm going to just cut that, shorten that just a little bit. And I'll basically do the same thing with the next strip as well. And like I said, I'm going to take a horizontal strip off the bottom of this paper, and it's about the same width as the previous cut, the vertical cut there. And what I'm going to do is just overlap these, like I said, in an L shape. I love creating an L shape design on a project. I will just say that if you're stuck for a design idea and you're working on a scrapbooking layout, it's a really great go-to design. You can actually use it in this orientation, or you can use a reverse L shape so that you have the L in the opposite direction. And really, really super easy to design a layout once you have this sort of in mind, because that little corner of the L is where you're going to put your photo and your photo mats and the focal point for your project. So I'm going to use one of the book plates from the ephemera pack from Tranquility as the base for my photo mat layers. And so I've got that chosen now. I'm going to take some craft foam strips and just add those to the back of these strips of paper. I don't want the strips of paper to be flat to the project. I want them to be bumped up a little bit. So I'm going to just add this craft foam on here, and in that way it's going to make it more dimensional on my project. So you can just see there already. That's really nice. It just gives it a little bit of a lift. And at this point, I'm just kind of trying to gauge where I want to put these papers, where I want that little corner of my L shape to be. And now I'm just going to kind of try to get an idea of what I want for my layers for my photo mat. So this is the photo I'm using. It's a photo of my daughter and my grandson. This was taken last fall, I think in October. And I did adjust this photo in Lightroom, which I really like that app, but there's lots of different photo apps that you can use for adjusting your photos. I obviously adjusted this to be black and white. I increased the exposure a little bit and just played around with it a bit. And I printed it at 5x3. I actually trimmed it down a little bit to be a little bit smaller than 5x3. And it's a borderless photo. It doesn't have a border on it. And so I'm just kind of looking through this ephemera pack for a bunch of different ideas of what I might use in my photo mat layers. And so I've picked out a couple of little frames and some tickets and that kind of thing. And then I had this on my desk. It's a piece of paper that I embossed with a Spellbinders 3D embossing folder. The folder is called 4 Petal Floral. Again, that's from Spellbinders. And I just trimmed that down to go behind my photo. I love the texture that it adds. It's really pretty. And I wanted to extend some of the ephemera that I picked out by chopping it in half. So the little frames I chopped in half. I'm going to use the top half above and then the other half below my photo. And in that way you can really, like I said, extend your ephemera pieces, and it just makes them go just that little bit farther for you. Right now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my different little bits. This little doily kind of a piece, or this little, I guess it's not a doily, it's a little intricate frame. I love that. And that was on one of the laser cut sheets. I love the laser cuts from 49 and Market. I think they might be one of my favorite things from these collections. And I will always buy them with any collection that I ever purchase from them because they are gorgeous. I love that they don't have white space around them. They're so delicate and beautiful, and I just love them. And I also love the text print book plates. They are amazing. Again, this was from the ephemera pack from Tranquility, and I just wanted that little bit of text in my photo mat area. I am going to distress the edges of all of these different little bits in the photo mat, beginning with the photo. I will also distress that piece that was embossed and everything, all of these different bits. I'll either distress them with my little distressing tool, or I'll distress them with my fingernail or a scissor, whatever. This is not difficult to do. You do not need this special tool to do this. I'm just going to show you now here doing that with my fingernail. I'll also show you here with a scissor. You can use any of those to distress the edges of your paper and it works just the same. So now I'm just showing you here. I like that I have this horizontal line going with my photo and my photo mat layers, but I want to create kind of like a little bit of a vertical in the photo mat as well to kind of elongate it sort of to match the lines of the vertical paper in the L shape. So what I'll do is I'll add those different bits above and below the photo from the ephemera pack, the little frame pieces, the tickets, the laser cut, anything like that. It's going to just create that sort of line that goes through the photo, just to kind of draw your eye through that area. Now I am going to glue these papers down and that craft foam down with some liquid adhesive. And I'm just being mindful of making sure that this is all straight. So I'm grabbing my Tim Holtz centering ruler here, not using it in the centering way at all. I'm just making sure that there's equal distance from the top of that paper to the edge and the bottom of the paper to the edge. And then I'll do the same thing with this horizontal strip as well. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the strip in the right orientation. There is a little bit of text on there and so on. I want that butterfly to be flying the right direction and so on. So once I've got that in the right place and I've measured it to make sure, I will use paper weights to make sure that that just gets adhered to that gray paper background. And the paper background also has that texture paste on it. So it's good to use a liquid adhesive so that you get a really good bond. And just making sure that that's straight with my T-square ruler again. And now I'll start to stick these different layers together. I did go back later and add more foam adhesive on this photo. I don't recommend doing the foam adhesive as I've done it here. Make sure that you have an equal amount of foam adhesive on the back. I should have just used a piece of craft foam on the whole picture, but I think those foam dots were handy and that's just what I used. So I did take that off camera and made sure that there was an equal amount of foam adhesive on that photo so that there's no saggy spaces on it. And now I'm just adhering these layers together, but I thought, oh, I really want a piece of brown paper in these layers too, because I had planned to do white splatter, and white splatter on that craft is just so fun and cool on a project. It just really looks neat. And you'll see that when I do the white splatter here near the end. I am just going to put a little bit of liquid adhesive in here as well, just to make sure things are really getting adhered nicely. The liquid adhesive I'm using in this case is Barely Arts glue, but you know, you could use your art glitter liquid adhesive, you could use your Gina K adhesive, whatever it is that you like to use on your scrapbooking layouts. If you like to make sure that your liquid adhesive is archival, then that's something that you'll want to be sure that you're looking for when you grab the liquid adhesive. So I've just got these all of the different little layered bits in there, the little frames and the laser cuts and so on. I'm just going to add this to the back for now with a little bit of foam adhesive until I get all of the different layers added in behind the photo. And once I have that all secured, I will go back and add the photo to the layout with some permanent adhesive. But at this point, I want to make sure that the photo is straight, because that's what you'll notice if the photo is crooked. There might be some parts of this photo mat that don't look perfectly straight, but it's the photo that really matters to me. Now I'm going to grab, look at this large laser cut piece, you guys. Oh my gosh. I just had a heart attack when I opened these laser cuts and saw this. It is so stunning, but I didn't want to hide half of it underneath, right? So what I'll do is, I know that I want that portion of this to be sticking out on this side because that's just so gorgeous and I love it so much. Again, with the laser cuts from 49 and Market, oh, they're just exquisite. I love them so much. And so I'm just going to trim this. I'm going to trim it into 2 portions. It's not completely in half. And I'll put one on one side and then one on the other, kind of on a diagonal. I didn't want them directly across from each other. And once I have those adhered in place, now I'm going to grab some of those leaves that I die cut earlier from that paper that I created. And I fuss around for a little bit. I don't leave the leaves exactly where I put them here initially. I move them around a little bit, but I will adhere those down with some foam adhesive. And you can just see how I have those tucked in behind at this point, in behind the laser cut piece there. So I'm just going to kind of try to get an idea of where I want these leaves to go. And once I'm happy with where I have them, I will eventually put some foam adhesive underneath them. And I'm just going to grab some more of the other little laser cut pieces. And when I work on a project like this, I like to make sure that my ephemera is nicely layered. So I'm grabbing some foam adhesive and I'm layering some other little flowers on top of that initial laser cut, that large laser cut floral bouquet that I added. So I'm just going to put 3 of these kind of little, they kind of look like little pink daisies or something. They're super cute. I love them. They could be, I don't really know my flowers. I'm not sure, but they kind of look like a daisy to me. Now I'm going to add a little blue butterfly up here to the top, and I popped that up on some foam adhesive as well. I also added a small green flower there as well. I'm just showing you that now. I added a little bit of greenery on either side, one to the top of each sort of like little cluster. And now I'm just going to go to town with my white splatter. I like to use Dina Wakley gloss spray. I like to just pour a little puddle of it out onto my desk and then pick up a generous amount of it with my brush and splatter it down. I love the look of white splatter. I just feel like it adds a really nice cohesive look to the whole project. It brings everything together. It brings everything alive. It just looks really nice, and I am addicted to white splatter. I admit it. I have a problem. I don't think I have enough Dina Wakley white gloss spray in my stash to last me for sure. I think I have 3 different bottles on the go right now. So I'm just adding that in. Really love how that looks so much. Once that's all dried, I'm going to add this little die cut word sweet as my title. There's tons of room underneath that for strips of journaling. And when I add my journaling, which I commonly do off camera, I will do that below the word sweet in some typed strips that I usually just cut with my paper trimmer into little 1/4 inch strips. And I like to type my journaling with my vintage typewriter. I actually, these days I hardly ever use my computer, but I used to use my computer all the time. Now that I have a little vintage typewriter, I use that more than ever. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this. I had so much fun creating this project. Just getting into the different products that I've purchased and making with them. This is one of my favorite scrapbooking layouts I've done in a while. I really loved making this, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got a few tips and tricks along the way, and I am totally inspired by this Tranquility collection from 49 and Market. They always knock it out of the park, that's for sure, and this collection is no exception. I just love it so much. So just going to show you here up close all of the little bits of detail, and that's going to be it for me today. So thank you so much, friends, for watching. Check the links to all of the products that I've used in the description box below. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.